Hi, this is Cloves, and I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
Excited new single just recently dropped. Let's talk a little bit about the single. Going into the studio with Ariel Rockshide to work on Rockstead.
Right, Sid.
See, I knew I was gonna get that name wrong.
It's okay. It's a tricky one.
It is a tricky one. How was the whole writing process of that single?
Well, I've been writing my album basically with the same composer for the whole thing. So I basically wrote the song with a guy called Justin Parker, and also a guy called Star Smith. And yeah, I mean, we spent one day in the studio together. I was really frustrated. It was like a bad time for me. And then we were all sitting around chatting, and then it kind of came out quite quickly. And yeah, it's quite an easy process, the writing process.
Right. Now, Justin's been your writing partner for a while now, right? What was it about Justin that it made you want to work with him over and over again?
I think sometimes when it comes to writing songs, it's very personal, so it's a lot to do with like creative chemistry, I think, and how much you trust the other person as well, and if they have similar tastes to you. Like I think it's kind of like dating in a way, like, but for writing a song, finding someone that you match with. So yeah. So I think we just get on real well. We just have a chat. Like we have a great trust for each other and a good friendship, and I think that's why.
Now, and the same thing, kind of goes with the team that you've been working with. This record's been, a long time in the making, so to speak. Tell me about, from the first day that you said I'm going to start working on this album to today, now that the album's almost ready. Like, how do you see the growth of your writing or your artistry during that process?
I mean, when I started out making the album, I definitely was very self-critical. And I think over the course of 3 years, I started to kind of give myself like a little bit of slack when I felt like I wasn't doing that well. And really, it's just like, it's really just fighting my own head most of the time and trying to push through that sort of self-pressure and really try and find that self-confidence to be like, what I'm doing is good, it's okay. And yeah, so I guess I've grown as myself and started to understand myself a little more, and I think that's how I've gotten better, basically.
And as you continue to work with this team, how do you make it a challenge every time and not just the same easy process over and over again?
I think for me, I always go into the production process, especially like considering what that song is saying and what it actually needs. So it's never like the same old tricks. It's kind of like, well, what are we saying today? What's the point of this record? And then we try and dive in and find what we're looking for basically in the song. So yeah, so it's never the same, pretty much.
Now, during this whole process for the album, would you say that the theme of the album kind of changed over the course of that process?
I mean, the theme, I didn't really go into the album thinking conceptually. It was more just a process of me wanting to write songs, wanting to make a great album, and that was my main goal. I didn't go in being like, conceptually I want to do this kind of crazy fucking thing. And so really it was just kind of what was going on in my life at the time, and then that really just translated into the music. So it started out as like a breakup album, and then it kind of turned into an album about myself and how I see myself and what I struggle with in myself. And yeah, so I guess it just followed me basically.
Yeah. So it kind of grew with you. Now, this album, you also went to London to go make the album. What was it about London that you wanted to, take that trip over there to create this record instead of going somewhere else, New York, LA, or even back at home?
I think I don't know, I always kind of aspired to be like a lot of British artists, and I thought that was a good place to start, I guess. So yeah, I was definitely inspired by like a lot of 90s music for the record, but also, a little bit of Radiohead, a little bit of that kind of like Brit guitar music, so it just seemed like a good fit.
Now, when you went into the studio, what was your role in there? Were you singer-songwriter, and you also played multiple instruments? What else did you do in the studio?
I mean, everything. I definitely was, I sat in the studio every single day and helped produce the album, basically. So, I mean, I'm a co-producer on the album, so I worked on all the arrangements, all the sonics, and yeah, I mean, I'm proud of it now, So, yeah, long process though.
Now, Bringing the House Down was, the new single, first listen of the record. What was it about this track that you wanted, your audience to hear this song first?
I just feel like I put out an EP, like I think maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago now, and it's quite a young representation of me, and I think Bringing the House Down is a good representation of where the album goes to. So it just felt like the right starting point, if that makes sense. And yeah, I'm just excited for people to kind of move forward with me and understand me a little more. While now I understand myself a little more, so they can too. And yeah.
And with that growth in you, I mean, your vocals are completely different. They're so much better now. So
Oh my
you,
God, I'm so glad that you
so you know when you right. So you know when you think about your vocals, is that something that you kind of worked on? Is that some kind of growth that just naturally happened as you were growing with your music?
Yeah, I think because we spent so much time experimenting in the studio as well as songwriting, I definitely learnt my voice better, and I learnt how to use it more as an instrument rather than just like me trying to convey something. It also became like, how can I use it more as an instrument? And you know, there was a lot of rewriting on the album as well to like fit my voice. Like I'd rewrite a chorus because I felt like maybe it wasn't sitting right in my voice, or we changed keys and that kind of thing. But I mean, I quite like a little bit. I quite like flaws in a voice too. So, you know, yeah, it's just really growing, really, with my voice.
Now, what can your fans expect with this record? I know it's dropping sometime in June. What can they expect with the record? How many tracks? You know, what would they get out of it when they first hear it?
I mean, it's 10 songs, and it's basically just a sum up of my life for the last 3 years, and it's quite hard hitting. It's very honest lyrically, and yeah, I mean, I hope people like it.
Now back to, you know, British artists. You went on tour in 2015 with James Bay, which at the time was still kind of a new artist. Now, you know, you say his name and people just go crazy. But, you know, that was still a pretty big tour here in LA. You performed at the Palladium, which is a pretty big venue. So going on to a tour like that, what did you get out of it? What did you learn? What did you pick up from James Bay and, you know, his way of touring?
When I first started touring, I mean, I'd done a lot of like pub shows and stuff when I was growing up, but I'd never played my own music in that way for crowds. And I also I don't know, I just feel like it really built my confidence performing live, because it was something that I'd literally like sit around all day being really anxious about the show. And now I'm like a lot more calmer about it. I'm like half an hour before a show I'll get a little nervous and that's it. But I mean, I think it's like anything, like repeating something, and yeah, it's like anything that you do enough you get better at, and that's basically what it taught me.
Did anything stick out to you during that tour, like something you can do better?
I mean, everything. You can always do everything better, I think. So everything, show, arrangements, songs. Like even back then it was like, I think James was like 2 years ago now, so I mean, I didn't even have half my album written or any of my songs produced. Like, I only just started working on like...
So you basically didn't know what you were doing.
I had no idea what I was doing at all. And sometimes it's good to like throw yourself into situations that you know maybe you're not meant to be in yet, but you got to fucking step up. And I mean, that was James. For me, I was very out of my comfort zone, but that's a good thing, I think. And yeah, I mean, so it was basically... you know, survive. Right.
Now, lastly, you know, you're from overseas, Australia. So what has been the biggest challenge in trying to get your sound out here in the States?
The biggest challenge, I didn't know. I think that, I mean, it's really just started for me in terms of putting my music out, because everything for me has been behind the scenes. So like the last 3 years I've literally just been sat in a studio being like tearing my hair out trying to get something right. And so now it's really just about making, you know, people understand me and telling them who I am, and I, you know, take it or leave it, whatever it is. But so really, I mean, the biggest challenge is now just to put it all out and tell people who I am and try and feel understood, you know.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait for the record in June. Thanks for hanging out with me. Appreciate your time. You guys be sure to check out Cloves. She's not on tour right now. Hopefully a tour comes soon. But check out her new single. It's called
Bringing the House Down. It's not bringing down the house. just to clarify. Because
Did I accidentally say that?
No, you didn't say that, but everyone says that. So I'm just bringing the house down. Check it out.